Lassen Volcanic National Park is a realm where beauty masks menace, where the silence of towering pines and glassy lakes hides a pulse older than the earth itself. For Evan LaRue, a man fleeing the city's relentless churn, his uncle's cabin offered a sanctuary, a life carved from solitude and sweat. But in October 1997, a single sound, a low, rhythmic thumping, shattered his peace, drawing him into the forest's depths to a watchtower that time forgot. What he found was no mere ruin but a threshold, guarded by a presence that fed on fear, flesh, and the unwary. The Sentinel's curse unfolds in 4 parts, a descent into Lassen's haunted heart, where every shadow whispers a warning, every step risks a claim that never relents. Have you ever felt a silence that seemed to know you, a sound that called your name from the dark? Would you follow it, knowing it might never let you go? Evan LaRue was a man eroded by the city. At 34, his life as a graphic designer in San Francisco had become a grind of deadlines and despair, each day a battle against noise. Traffic's roar, colleagues' chatter, the hum of screens that bled his creativity dry. His apartment, a shoebox overlooking asphalt, offered no respite, its walls thin with neighbors' lives, its air stale with routine. When his uncle, a reclusive outdoorsman, died in 1996, leaving him a cabin in Lassen Volcanic National Park, Evan saw a lifeline. He packed what mattered, a few clothes, books, a fishing rod, and drove north, the city's skyline fading in his rearview mirror, replaced by highways that narrowed, then vanished into wilderness. Lassen greeted him with a hush that felt like forgiveness. The cabin stood alone, a cedar-walled sentinel between pines and a lake so clear it mirrored the stars. Single story, weathered but sturdy, it was equipped for self-sufficiency. Solar panels caught the sun, a generator purred in a shed, a well offered water cold and pure. Miles from Warner Valley, the nearest hamlet, it was a world apart, its isolation a gift Evan embraced. He learned its rhythms, dawn hunts, noon fishing, dusk hikes, each task a ritual that grounded him. Trout leapt in the lake, deer ghosted through the underbrush, and the forest's song, wind, birds, the rustle of leaves, became his pulse. For a year, Evan rebuilt himself, his hands calloused, his heart lighter, the city a memory he no longer mourned. Yet solitude is a double-edged blade. By night, the cabin's quiet turned heavy, its walls a canvas for doubts. Evan's journal, a leather-bound relic from his uncle, filled with musings. The joy of a perfect cast, the ache of a moonless sky, the question of whether freedom was worth its price. He'd left no one behind, no family, no lover, but the absence grew teeth, gnawing at him in the dark. He'd sit on the porch, whiskey in hand, staring into the forest, its pines like judges, their shadows shifting in ways that felt too deliberate. He laughed it off by day, blaming imagination, but at night he felt watched, a sensation that lingered like damp rot. October 1997 brought a chill to Lassen's air, the leaves aflame with amber and crimson, the lake's surface sharp with frost. Evan was content, or so he told himself, splitting wood for winter, his breath clouding in the crisp morning. That evening, as he prepared a trout dinner, the cabin's peace shattered. A sound low, rhythmic, like a drumbeat, rolled through the forest, faint but unyielding. He paused, knife poised, ears straining past the fire's crackle. The windows showed only darkness, the pines beyond still as stone. He tried to dismiss it, a deer stomping, a branch falling, but the thumping grew louder, more insistent, a cadence that seemed to pulse in his chest, calling him by name. Evan wasn't a man to scare easily. He'd faced coyotes, weathered storms, slept through winds that shook the cabin's bones. But this sound was different, not of the forest he knew, stirring a dread that felt ancient, personal. He grabbed his flashlight, its beam a frail sword against the night, and stepped outside. The air bit his skin, sharp with pine and earth, the lake a mirror reflecting nothing. The thumping echoed, now clearer, drawing him past the water's edge, into the forest's embrace. He moved with care, boots crunching needles, senses honed, the beam catching glints of frost on bark, eyes that weren't there. He'd mapped Lassen's trails in his mind, hiked its ridges, fished its streams, but the sound led him astray, off paths he knew, where pines thickened and shadows clung. The forest felt alive, its silence not empty but watchful, urging him deeper. 20 minutes in, the trees parted, revealing a clearing that shouldn't exist, a place the forest seemed to guard. In its center stood a watchtower, ancient and wrong, its stone weathered to bone, beams splintered, vines and moss claiming it like a corpse. Its silhouette loomed against a starless sky, windows dark as sockets, door ajar like a wound. The thumping came from within, a heartbeat that shook the earth, and Evan felt it. Lassen wasn't his sanctuary anymore. It was something else, something that knew he'd come. Evan stood at the clearing's edge, flashlight trembling, the tower's mass swallowing light and reason. He'd heard no tales of such a place. No ranger's log, no campfire yarn spoke of a watchtower in Lassen's depths. Yet it was real, its stone cold under his touch, its presence a weight that urged retreat. The thumping grew louder, a summons he couldn't ignore, though every instinct screamed to run. He pushed the door, its creak a low moan, exhaling air thick with must, decay, and something sharper, like fear distilled. Inside, darkness reigned, the beam weak, catching dust motes that danced like ghosts. A spiral staircase wound upward, its steps worn smooth, as if countless feet or claws had climbed before. Evan ascended, the thumping a pulse in his bones, the walls closing in, their stones scratched with symbols, lines, curves, whirls that seemed to shift when he looked away. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the tower breathed, its walls alive with intent. His mind churned, call Warner Valley, mark the trail, turn back. But curiosity, that fatal spark, pulled him higher, toward a sound that felt like it knew his sins, his fears, his name. The staircase ended in a circular room, small and stark, a single window framing the forest's endless night. The thumping stopped as Evan crossed the threshold, replaced by a silence so dense it pressed against his temples, urging him to kneel. A wooden table stood in the center, scarred by time, bearing a leather-bound book, its cover cracked like drought-stricken earth, and a stone, fist-sized, glowing with a faint blue light, pulsing like a heart. Evan's flashlight flickered, then died, plunging the room into near darkness. The stone's glow a beacon in the void, calling him closer. He approached, heart a drum, the silence a predator stalking his thoughts. The book was heavy, its pages brittle, yellowed, exhaling dust as he opened it. Words swam within, accounts in faded ink, spanning centuries of vanishings, rituals, a curse tied to the tower. Names filled the margins. Trappers from the 1800s, settlers gone mad, hikers lost in the 20th century, natives who warned of a sentinel that guarded Lassen's heart. The stone, the text claimed, was a key, a conduit to this entity, a being that fed not on blood but on the terror of those who strayed too close. Evan's rational mind rebelled, superstition, delirium, but the stone's pulse matched his own, a rhythm too intimate, as if it knew his pulse, his fears. He reached for the stone, its surface cold, humming with a life that sank into his marrow. The room darkened, shadows curling like fingers, and a whisper broke the silence. Evan. His name, faint as breath, came from the walls, the floor, the air itself. He spun, lighter in hand, its flame casting shadows that writhed, forming shapes, eyes, hands, mouths, that vanished when he stared. Evan, you must leave, the whisper urged, louder now, a chorus of voices overlapping, panicked, pleading. The stone flared, searing his palm, and Evan stumbled back, lighter wavering, the room a maze of fear, its walls seeming to pulse, to watch. Panic seized him, the stone clutched tight, its glow a taunt. He ran, descending the staircase in a blind sprint, steps slick, walls closing in, the whispers chasing him. A tide of voices screaming his name, accusing, claiming. The tower seemed to fight him, its steps shifting, its air thickening, a living thing that hungered for his fear. He burst into the clearing, night air sharp, and ran, the forest's gaze a weight on his spine. The cabin's door slammed behind him, locks snapping shut, and Evan collapsed, gasping. The stone dim now, its pulse faint but alive, a splinter in his hand. Morning brought no peace. Evan sat by the fire, the stone on the table, its glow a mockery of dawn. The whispers hadn't followed, but their echo lingered, a warning that rooted in his gut. He saw the tower in his mind, its stone, its symbols, its silence, and knew he couldn't stay. The forest outside was still, too still, its pines like mourners, its lake a mirror reflecting nothing human. He decided to bury the stone, to sever its hold, to reclaim the peace he'd lost. By the lake, he dug deep, earth cold and unyielding, and buried it beneath rocks, dirt, silence, each shovelful a prayer for release. Returning to the cabin, he felt no lighter. The forest watched, its shadows sharper, its air heavier, as if his act had angered it. Days passed, each a weight, the solitude he'd loved now a chain. The whispers returned, faint at first, a murmur in the wind. Evan, you didn't leave. Growing louder, more insistent, threading through the trees. Shadows flickered at the tree line, shapes too tall, too thin, vanishing when he turned, their movements deliberate, predatory. Sleep fled, nights spent by the window, rifle in hand, the cabin's walls no shield but a cage, its creaks a language he feared to learn. Evan's journal grew frantic, pages filled with sketches, runes from the tower, the stone's shape, eyes in the dark. He wrote of the forest's change, how its sounds, birds, streams, breezes, had faded, replaced by a silence that breathed, that waited. He checked traps, fished, chopped wood, but each task felt futile, watched by eyes he couldn't find. The lake no longer mirrored the sky but something darker, its surface rippling without wind, forming shapes, faces, hands, that dissolved when he blinked. He told himself it was exhaustion, madness, but the whispers knew his name, and the forest knew his fear. One evening, splitting logs, a scream tore through the dusk, a raw, blood-curdling cry from the tower's direction. Evan froze, axe raised, dread a blade in his gut. Reason urged him to stay, to barricade the door, but a deeper need to know, to end the nightmare, drove him forward. He grabbed his rifle, its weight cold comfort, and trekked to the clearing, the forest tightening around him, pines leaning closer, shadows curling like claws. The tower loomed, its silhouette sharper, as if it had grown in his absence, its door wider, inviting. The clearing held horror. A man lay sprawled, body torn, limbs twisted, face frozen in a scream that echoed in Evan's mind. Blood soaked the earth, pooling around shredded clothes, a hand clutching a paper. A map, stained red, marking the tower with runes like those in the book. The air reeked of iron, of death, and something fouler, older, like rot that lived. Evan approached, rifle ready, stomach churning. The map's path a lure he couldn't resist. A growl stopped him, low, guttural, from the tower's maw, not animal, not human, but something that knew his sins, his fears, his name. He climbed the staircase again, heart a thunder, the silence heavier, alive with intent. Each step echoed, the walls watching, their scratches deeper now, forming patterns, eyes, teeth, a smile. The room was unchanged, table bare, book gone, stone missing, but the air pulsed, thick with a presence that pressed against his skull, urging him to kneel. Shadows stirred, coiling, and Evan felt it. Lassen wasn't a forest but a predator, its hunger eternal, its gaze fixed on him. He backed away, rifle trembling, the growl louder now, a promise of endings no bullet could stop. Evan stood frozen, the room's shadows alive, writhing like smoke. A figure emerged in the doorway, tall, impossibly so, gaunt as bone, its skin pale, translucent, veins black beneath like roots. Its eyes burned, ember-like, not with light but hunger, a void that stripped Evan bare. Its smile was a wound, twisted, promising pain no mind could bear. "Welcome, Evan," it said, voice like gravel over glass, each word a chain that bound him. "You found the heart of the forest." Evan aimed, hands shaking, finger on the trigger. "Who are you?" he demanded, voice a whisper against the room's pulse. "I am the guardian," it rasped, stepping closer, movements fluid, unnatural, limbs bending wrong. "The keeper of the curse. You are mine." The air thickened, whispers roaring, a chorus of the lost, names, screams, pleas, naming him, claiming him. It lunged, faster than thought, and Evan fired, the bullet tearing through its chest, black blood seeping, thick as tar. Staggered, laughing, "You cannot kill me. I am this place." Its eyes blazed, smile widening, claws flexing, air bending around it like heat. Evan fired again, aiming for its head, and it crumpled. A heap of bone and shadow, lifeless, the room exhaling, silence rushing back, heavy, accusing. Evan grabbed the table's edge, breath ragged, the guardian's words a splinter in his mind. The book was gone, the stone buried, but the tower felt alive, its walls grieving, hungering. He descended, steps slick, the staircase endless, whispers faint now, urging him to stay. In the clearing he found kindling, doused the map, and burned it, flames licking the night, runes curling to ash. The whispers screamed, a cacophony of rage, then fell silent, the forest exhaling, its weight lifting, but not gone, never gone. He returned to the cabin, mind fraying, body leaden. Packing was mechanical, clothes, journal, rifle, each item a farewell to a life he'd lost. He drove to Reading, collapsing in a motel, its musty room a refuge from Lassen's dark. He called the police, voice steady despite their disbelief, recounting the tower, the body, the guardian. Officer Riley Moore arrived, young but worn, his notepad filling with Evan's tale. "It's quite a story," Moore said, skepticism sharp, "but without evidence, it's hard to act." Evan nodded, expecting no less. "Be careful," he warned. "Still out there." Moore promised to investigate, his smile thin, leaving Evan to the motel's silence, the forest's echo a pulse in his bones. Weeks later, Moore called. The tower held blood, signs of struggle, but no stone, no book, no guardian. The body was a hiker, missing since 1994, cause of death unclear. Mauling, they said, but no animal fit. Lassen sealed the area, citing rock slides, predators, but Evan knew the truth. He settled in Sacramento, a small apartment, a warehouse job, the city's noise a frail shield against the whispers, faint at night, calling his name. He avoided forests, their silence too alive, their shadows too familiar. Lassen endured, its pines taller, its secrets deeper, waiting for the next soul to hear its thump, its curse. Evan dug into Lassen's past, finding fragments in old libraries, vanishing since the gold rush, trappers lost, natives warning of a watcher who claimed the bold. A Paiute elder, met years later, spoke of a spirit born of greed, bound to the land, feeding on those who took too much. The tower, she said, was its altar, the stone its heart, the guardian its claw. Evan's encounter, the map, the runes, the whispers, fit her tale, a pattern of hunger that time only honed. He saw the guardian in dreams, gaunt, smiling, its eyes naming him. The forests chant a lullaby he couldn't escape. The Sentinel's curse is a warning. Some places are not ours, their secrets not meant to be claimed. Lassen lives, its silence a pulse, its guardian a shadow that knows your name. Heed the signs, thumps in the night, stones that glow, voices from nowhere. Turn back, or become its prey, another whisper in its endless song.